Hey everybody, it's your girl Valerie Adams. We are in Cape Town on our way to Robben Island. Robben Island is where Nelson Mandela was incarcerated. So we're on our way to jail. Clank, clank.
Okay. Yeah, I really say it's people say, well, why don't you just hold the same
The hotel here where we are staying. What's the name of the hotel, Sam?
Tabletop, Table Bay.
Table Bay.
Sun Table Bays.
Sun Table Bay, because we are at the Tabletop Mountain. This was the mountain that we had thousands of people with us yesterday. Our first day we took the cable up on the Tabletop Mountain. Now you can see the mountain there. You see that is the table. That's how they made the Tabletop Mountain. This bridge here open all the way out when we pass through. We're in Cape Town, South Africa.
We are heading toward Robben Island.
We are on the way to Robben Island. It is windy, 60-some degrees out here. It's Sunday, December the 3rd. This is our second day here in Cape Town. So it's Sunday here. We're 7 hours ahead of you all at home. So we are on our way to Robben Island. This is where Nelson Mandela was incarcerated. Yesterday I showed you guys a picture of how he was on the balcony of the building in Cape Town where he gave his freedom speech. And that freedom speech happened after he was freed from Robben Island. So we're on our way there. It's chilling. We're on the ocean. It's amazing. People that were ill and diseases that they didn't want to make other people sick. They probably had COVID, so they probably used Robben Island back in the day just so that they didn't make the population ill. So like malaria and other illnesses like that. This is where they would bring people years ago whenever they would be ill with the illness so that it didn't infect the entire country.
At least they can see the wind blow.
That's the Tabletop Mountain behind us.
Yep, tabletop right behind us.
Usually if there is like fog or something, the tabletop will look like it's got a tablecloth on it because it will be covered in white. So it looks like a covered table. Because it's a clear day, you can see the table behind us.
We are coming into Robben Island. This is the pier. I think that's the prison straight ahead.
For that, there's a guy that will take over from me. when we get to the maximum security jail that was locked up on Robben Island. He was a former prisoner. And I don't want to rob you of that experience by talking about that jail. Yes, my time is going to come. You see, time in South Africa has a mandatory age of 65 years. The youngest former prisoner is 58. So you know, pretty soon, that story, that journey is going to come to an end. So my time of sharing that story will come pretty soon. In 1990, and one thing I need to point out is that the prisoner was a male of color. And when I say male of color, one of three groupings: colored, Indian, or black. The prison authority was England. White. and I'm very strategic in sharing this, and I'll try and explain this a little bit later. And in 1997, when I joined Robben Island, I must be honest, I had perceptions of Robben Island before I started working here. The one perception was Robben Island is an Alcatraz. One big building, a jail. The second perception I had is, look, I'm not a former prisoner. When I say I'm not a former prisoner, it doesn't mean I wasn't arrested during those bitter days for apartheid. I was never found guilty and sentenced to a jail. So I don't know what prison was like. So I had to perceive prison based on the movies and the series you watch. You know, Prison Break, Orange is the New Black perception. And in 1997, when I joined this organization, what did I meet? A former prisoner working for Robben Island. A former prison officer working for Robben Island. In other words, what you and I would perceive to be the enemy became colleagues. More importantly, they were living on Robben Island as neighbors. So understanding that, two perceptions was thrown through the window. It's not an Alcatraz because there are other buildings on the island. You'll see that. And secondly, the perception of prison was something totally different to what I expected. And I would like to take you on a sojourn of perceptions through this part of your journey, where I take you through 500 years of Robben Island, a place of banishment, a dumping ground, a place for the out of mind, the out of sight to society. And at the same time, who knows what we're going to see? Penguins to steenbok, to bontebok, to tortoises, to snakes. They roam around freely. They are not caged in any way. Give an example, just how the unique, unexpected things that can happen. Myself and Claude, the other day, drove down the road with a group of tourists, and there was a long mole snake lying on the side of the road. Not poisonous, but nice and big, just enjoying the sun. And then we stopped, and people took photographs and got up to take photographs, and the snake decides to make its way into the vehicle. You know? No, I'm kidding. But what did happen?
Hanging around
Our gang. What did happen was the engine being at the back, and then it ended up in the engine compartment. So we had to get someone out to have the snake removed. So these are the weird things that could happen. But in the 26 years that I've been working here, I've had an amazing journey, meeting some amazing people, from heads of states to celebs to former prisoners. 1997, Nelson Mandela, and a few occasions after that. And I share this because of what you shared with me earlier. Look but don't touch, you know. So this story came in when I got onto a vehicle with 40 German-speaking ladies, 40 of them. One of them had a happy 50th birthday sash on. Now I didn't know they were from Germany, but I saw the birthday sash. One group, so obviously it was something, you know, the group decided to do for a 50th birthday. So I get on, I introduced myself. You see, this is Claude, by the way. What is the guy driving? And as you can see, sir, my name is Toya. So I get on, I said to them, hello, I'm Toya. And this ladies gave me the weirdest look. And the one lady asked, are you Toya? I said, yes. She said, are you really Toya? I said, yeah, that's me. They must understand, I thought I'd become famous. Only to find out that Toya is a German word. For expensive. There I'm standing at the pole telling 40 ladies, hello, I am. Happy 50th birthday. And immediately I could see in their eyes velvet curtains, glitter balls coming down. By the gratuity I got by the end of my tour, I think they expected something totally. I promise you that's not going to happen. But so we good.
We good.
Because when you go back to the 1600s, man would have set foot where we are standing today. This used to be a sandy beach. And what they found was a barren piece of land, no buildings, no trees. But with the amount of seals found on this island, the name Robben Eiland was born. It's a Dutch word for seals. And immediately, with looking at this piece of land, finding food and fresh water, many of the passing boats found this ideal to get supplies in terms of fresh water and food, instead of the unknown of the indigenous man of the Cape. 1652, the Dutch East Indian Company decides to take over the Cape. And with the indigenous Khoisan being found there, there was also the perception that they were uncivilized, who had no clue on how to use the sea. That perception was based on an uninhabited piece of land 7 miles away. And immediately they thought, if there's a problem, they can leave the prisoner here. By 1658, Ochumatu became the first prisoner left here. By 1659, he had built the raft and became the first successful escapee. And escaped to Blauberg, the closest land point. But immediately you can see a history of a jail. We're going to see a green dome structure in a moment. It's on the far side of the prison that looks like a little mosque. But by the 1740s, the Dutch East Indian Company tried to safeguard the sea route to the East Indies. And when Java, as it was known back then, was taken over, the religion of Islam was introduced to this part of the world. Because holy Muslim men became the political exiles and prisoners that was brought here. 1800s, the British arrived. And then there was a different understanding, because they saw that mountain on that side and thought, what's on the other side of that mountain? And ultimately they got there and they found a tribe living there. And they thought, I like the land. And they said, can we have it? And obviously the answer was no. And they said, okay, let's take it. And ultimately it led to wars. These were known as the wars over land, or the wars of dispossession. And again, the island became the jail. Chief Makana, Chief Langalibalele, Chief Siolo. In other words, the further away from the Cape they moved, the more tribes they found, and the more wars and more prisoners to Robben Island. But we're going to now encounter a different Robben Island as we go through and away from the harbour. Do take note, the harbour was built Second World War. Important to mention that, because by the Second World War, with the Cape very much on the side of the Allies, and the fear that Germany could attack the Cape, with the Suez Canal being the danger, and many of the Allied boats coming down the west of Africa, they would round Table Mountain to the east of Africa, and there was a fear that Germany could attack. So fortifying Robben Island meant a harbour was needed. And with the harbour being built, bigger boats could dock here, and you will see the amount of buildings that went up purely by looking at the architecture. A lot of them look like military structures, that talks about a military base, Second World War. An airfield was laid out, guns were installed. We have guns on the island that had a shooting distance of over 20 miles. There are underground bomb shelters, plotting rooms, there are buildings up to 60 feet beneath us, tunnels connecting underground areas together. So the island was used and fortified to a point that 3,000 soldiers could have been stationed. But these are some of the things I'm going to touch on again as we go along. But just to give an idea that the island had been a prison for more than 500 years. But if all goes according to plan, I should have you in jail within an hour. Stage in my life that I saw nothing wrong with apartheid. Am I correct, sir? my good friend sitting over there, would you agree with me that it was a stage, even in your life, that you didn't really see?
Let me put it this way. As the way apartheid was structured, I thought that it was created by God that we must be the low-class citizens. I've seen that there's something wrong, but I didn't know where it was coming from. You know, because they did build up in a way whereby they have to make sure that even in our minds we think that is normal. Yes, brainwashed till I reached an age of 12 years when I realized that definitely something is wrong, because other people, they can't live that way, that beautiful lifestyle, and we're living this lifestyle. It's true, but in other way.
And it being, if you get what I mean.
Yes.
Now, what I need to also mention, and exactly what he just shared, there was a minister in Parliament who had a portfolio as the Minister of Propaganda.
Wow.
Everything we read, everything we heard, everything we saw on television was approved by the Minister of Propaganda. So, hence he's saying he thought it was the word of God, that he has to be at the lower end of the scale. I was made to believe, and I'm not trying to paint a particular picture, I'm just trying to be as honest as I possibly can, that black people were dirty. I was made to believe that if I see a black lady walking in my colored neighborhood, she is a domestic worker. And that is exactly what he said. Because the priest tells you that, your teacher tells you that, your government tells you that, you open up the newspaper, you read that, you switch on the radio, that's what you listen to. The Minister of Propaganda.
Can I add something? That's where people like Steve and Bantu Biko raise up and say black is beautiful. So they wanted to make sure that we must love ourselves the way we are. And God didn't make a mistake to create us being black, giving us this black color. So they came up and say, believe in yourself, trust yourself, you are strong as any other human being in this world. Okay.
Yes, it is the changing of the mindset that I'm trying to get at that made people see things differently, believe things differently. And the sad reality is that there are still tendencies of that thinking alive in a way of thinking of people. So the answer is racism alive in South Africa? Yes. Up here. Not in law. Not in law, but in here. I'll give you an example. I saw my mom ironing her hair. Like you iron a shirt? Brown paper and a hot iron. Straight to the ground. And you know why? You see, apartheid was not based, or racially you were not classified based on mom or dad, as you would perceive. Mom, dad, black, kid black. Mom, dad, white, kid white. Age 16, you had to apply for your identification document. At this age of 16, they racially classify you into one form. And then this gentleman comes along. He's too dark to be colored, too light to be black. So where does he fit in? So they test you by putting a pen into your hair. If it falls out, when you shake it, you are colored. If it gets stuck, you are black.
Yes, it is true.
Now, keep in mind, we are talking about the pure breed. Do not tempt the pure breed. Blonde hair, blue eye. Mindset. You know where that comes from. And what happens if you had no hair? The measurement of the thickness of your upper lip or the width of your nose. So what I'm trying to share is what the stupidity of apartheid was like. But classified as the Bantu or the black person, you were governed by a law called the Pass Law. Now, this was a law that restricted the movement of black people within this country to a point. There was a document that you walked around with every time you leave your house that gives you the right to be where you are at that particular time. But if you contravene the document, if you don't have it in your possession, you ended up in prison, anything between 3 to 6 months without a trial. 1959, a new political movement was formed called the Pan-Africanist Congress. The co-founder member of this movement was a man by the name of Robert Mangaliso Sobukwe. He calls on every black person to deliberately contravene this law, to leave the document at home, to go to the nearest police station, inform the police you don't have the document, you've contravened the law, demand arrest, he said. Let us find out if the country will have enough prison space to house everyone if we all contravene on one day and at the same time. 21st of March 1960, the law was defined. They went to the police stations, informed the police they don't have the documents, and in front of one police station in a township called Sharpeville, the police shot and killed 69 people. The world got to know this day as the day of the Sharpeville massacre. The unknown factor of this day was Robert Sobukwe's arrest. Charged with incitement, found guilty, received a maximum sentence, and that was 3 years. He served it out in Johannesburg. 1960 was also a critical year where the apartheid government was concerned. They saw what could happen if the masses should unite and stand up. So what they did, they started to instill fear, change legislation. Robben Island became the prison, you know it today. But in 1963, trying to suppress this uprising, the leader of the most powerful movement is about to walk out of prison. An entire parliament convenes, discusses Robert Sobukwe, passes the Sobukwe clause, allowing the state to re-arrest and place under house arrest. And that is where the house with the water tank comes in. Confined to an area. Please note those grid iron gate structures, they were not there. I'll talk about it in a moment. Confined to this fencing area, no one is allowed to talk to him and is allowed to talk to no one. Total isolation, no one to talk to besides himself. This is the interesting part.
Sorry, Troy. Excuse me, folks. For people who were on bus number 2 yesterday, do you remember that I did touch on this? Yes, because there was a question that came to me. Why Mr. Mandela was so popular more than any other political prisoner, you know?
By the way,
yes.
I want to not rectify you.
Yes.
But I need to clarify one thing.
Yes.
Nelson Mandela was not a political prisoner.
Yes.
He wasn't. No. He was, but he wasn't. The law didn't classify him as a political prisoner. I'll explain that in a moment.
Yeah. Can I finish with this?
Sure.
Then I said to my people, let me tell you, and I knew somebody was asking me, knew something about South Africa and politics, a little bit about politics, or more. And I said, if you remember, Stephen Bantu Biko, and everybody rose up a hand and said, yes, you know about him. And I said, there's somebody that you don't know much about him. His name is Robert Mangaliso Sobukwe. Then you'll hear more when we get to Robben Island tomorrow. Thank you, Toy.
Now you're putting me on the spot. You couldn't tell me that before we got here. To prepare myself for. But the reality of the conversation we are having is that he was now seen as the only political prisoner by law. And by law, what that meant was certain privileges that had to be granted. Like he could sleep on the bed, wear his own clothes, allowed books, newspapers, a radio to listen to. The other prisoners, and you will learn about their prison conditions a bit later. He walked around freely. Whenever he wanted to, he could come out of that house and walk around. He can go to bed, sleep whenever he wanted to. But no one to talk to besides himself. And initially he was told he'd be kept here for 1 year. He ended up on Robben Island for 6.
Can you say that again, please?
He was supposed to be imprisoned on Robben Island under this particular clause for only 1 year. But he was kept here for 6. He was diagnosed with lung cancer, fearing that the only political prisoner in South Africa could die on this island is the reason why he ended up in a township 12 hours away from Cape Town called Garishiwe, where he lived in a house with his wife and his family. He was allowed to interact with the people of that community, but they told him, you talk to 3 people or more at the same time constitutes an illegal gathering. You think he had a wife and 4 kids. He died in 1978 at the age of 53, still in the house it is. But England, do you know what is interesting? Is that in 2008, Nelson Mandela was officially removed from the terrorist watch list in the US.
Oh.
Hell yeah, I'm gonna drop the jaws. And why? Because everyone kept in that jail had broken the law of this country, and they were criminal, and they were classified as terrorists. And that is why he ended up on the terrorist watch list in the US up until 2008. I think the surprising part, he was on that list in the first place. Remember Ronald Reagan?
Yes.
Remember the guy sitting at United Nations under Ronald Reagan called Dick Cheney?
Yes.
Did you know he voted for Mandela to remain in jail? They vetoed the call for Mandela's release. The question is why?
Yeah.
I'll talk about that a bit later. The other buildings around that house, built much later, Rottweilers, German Shepherd, police type dogs, became part of the narrative where security was concerned. But this is long after Robert Sobukwe was taken off, and that is when the kennels was built to house the dogs. So roughly 1974-75, the kennels were built for these dogs that was used in and around the prison complex. But sorry if I took you on a long road. I know it's very hot on board. But I hope that context I was trying to put this man in helps to understand the space a little bit better. Keep in mind, he would be the Malcolm X of South Africa.
Hi guys, this is Valerie Adams. I'm here with Alonzo Cartledge, the president and CEO of Our Gang Travel. How are you doing, Lolo?
I was doing okay till you start patting me on my back every word you said, but...
I was trying to wake you up. I thought you were asleep.
Okay. All right.
Night-night. Alonzo hasn't had a sleep since what, 1972? It was a stormy Wednesday.
It's just hard to come behind this woman. I don't know what it is.
Go night-night, Lilo.
I told her 30 years ago she should have been a comedian. You know, only who was it? Shasta is the only one who took my recommendation. You didn't.
So we shouting you out, Shasta.
Hey.
Yeah. So we are here on Robben's Island, and wow, we've just had an amazing conversation with our tour guide telling us about this island that we're on that is just unbelievable. So we videotaped it, so you all will see that as well as us moving around throughout this island today. It's disheartening when you learn about all of the efforts that were made to keep our people down, to keep us ignorant, and just to keep us incarcerated. So we are learning about the people that have gone before us, Nelson Mandela and those others that were on this island because of our color of our skin. It's just amazing that what all went through our history. So each one teach one, right?
And as I always say, travel is the best education you can get. Because whatever somebody tell you is so far removed from what it really is.
This is true.
And you haven't seen the world until we show it to you.
Yeah. So let's look.
Love you, Lo. This is where Nelson Mandela and many others were incarcerated, where they fought for our freedom, fought for the freedom of their people. We've just had an amazing morning. We took the boat over from Cape Town to this island.
When the apartheid government realized the major fear England and US had, they jumped on that fear wagon. And you know what was that fear? Communism. And they called everyone who stood up against them as a communist. And the terrorist watch list Nelson Mandela was found on. Hence, Margaret Thatcher called Nelson Mandela a self-confessed terrorist. And let's fast forward. Yes, there were many people that did not buy South African fruits and wines. There were many marches and demonstrations against the apartheid government all over the world. But as sanctions was crippling the economy of South Africa, Canada, for example, one of the first countries to implement sanctions, and many other Scandinavian countries implemented sanctions. But let's get to the end of the Cold War, the fall of the Berlin Wall. And what you do find is that the apartheid government realized that the backing they had was no longer there. And immediately they approached the political movements and said, guys, we need to talk. And they said, yeah, but how do you negotiate with a prisoner in a jail? Release all political prisoners, all political activists unconditionally. And then we can sit down and talk. October 1989, they agreed that all political activists would be released. And they did ask for time. They said, give us some time. And they agreed that by the end of April 1991, there'll be no more political activists within this country. The 14th of October, to be exact, the first group of political activists were released. The Rivonia Trialists as a winner. Nelson Mandela in 1990, as you remember, and every other day pockets of prisoners was released, not only from Robben Island, but there were many other jails in this country. 27th April 1991, the negotiations started. This led to the elections of 1994. Nelson Mandela became president, apartheid came to an end, and South Africa ends up with the most progressive constitution in the world. 1995, critical year. Critical. South Africa wins the Rugby World Cup. Remember. And these emotions I'm trying to also bring into the story. But the apartheid government says, but the guys were locked up, came out of jail, far more prepared for the negotiations than what we expected them to be. Which is odd if you think about it. What did they do? They threw all political activists basically into one prison. In other words, they threw cultures, languages, religions, different political movements together. Then they decided to keep the masterminds, the leaders, in one section of the prison. And what did you think they were going to talk about? We have one of the most progressive constitutions in the world. It was about preparing for freedom and not waiting for freedom. It was about turning the disadvantage of prison into their own advantage. Shouldn't we rather say, welcome to the first democratic parliament of this country and not Robben Island prison? But that freedom that they talked about, that they planned for, was a dream for many as well. A dream because if you're in prison after 10 years and 15 years, you start questioning whether or not you will see freedom. But that dream became reality. 1994 did happen. Apartheid did come to an end, and imagine the emotion when 1,200, 1,200 former prisoners came back to Robben Island on the 11th of February 1995.
Wow.
And they stood in the quarry behind me. I promise you I'm going to give you a much better view of the space when my colleague in front moves off. But 1,200 of them stood in the space behind me, and that day, 11th of February 1995, it was members of parliament standing here. It was minister, deputy minister. It was Nelson Mandela, president of South Africa, standing there. I don't think I can put emotions into words, but we can only imagine. But something unique happened as the reunion was concluded. Mr. Mandela, president, was due to walk out, and as he did, greeted his comrades, but he picks up a stone. And with the stone in hand, he stops at the entrance, stood for a moment, and laid it down. And without a question, the rest followed. And if you look carefully behind me, there's a pile of stones at the entrance. And each and every stone is a mark of a prisoner that was here at that reunion. And what it also shows you and I, how cultures, languages, religions, different political minds came into one space fighting one enemy. Irrespective of religion, political alliance, there was one enemy that brought you here, called apartheid. And that is our monument of the triumph of the human spirit of adversity, the triumph of the human spirit of all odds. So, I want to leave you with a thought. And it's a thought I'd like to share, but let me first give you that opportunity to take a few photographs. And then we'll make our way to the prison. I would like to share that thought with you. I have been asked if I could identify Mr. Mandela's stone. I said yes, it's the first one.
Pile of stones.
I've been asked some amazing questions. Like the one guy asked, am I sure that this is an island? No, we're not getting out. We're not getting out. I was asking if I'm sure that this is really an island. No, we're not getting up. When a kid grows up not looking at the color of his skin or religion, where does it go wrong? And I believe we have a role to play where it goes wrong, or to change the mindset. So my part of sharing history is also to try and make us think a bit differently. Nelson Mandela once said, never, never, and never again should it be that this beautiful land should ever experience oppression by one over another. I would like to quote another guy called Jimi Hendrix, who once said, once the power of love overtakes the love for power, only then can this world know peace. So here's the thought. Imagine every 3-year-old in this world grow up with that narrative. Imagine where our world can be pretty soon. And for me, that's Robben Island. Like I said, the journey of perceptions. And I hope I'm leaving you with a thought. I hope I'm leaving you with something to debate, discuss. Not only tonight, but tomorrow and the next day. And why I share this is because we are a unique space. A space of critical debates. A space of lifelong learning. A space where minds came together and the unthinkable happened. So thank you for allowing me to share a little bit of Robben Island with you. I really hope this part of your journey was informative, interesting, thought-provoking, and I hope you enjoyed it. I did try to make you laugh deliberately, because so many people have told us the journey of that prison is heavy, and if it is, I hope I was able to balance the tour out by looking at the lighter side of the other history. Now I say goodbye to you. Myself and my colleague over here part ways with you from this point. Because at the end of the journey of the prison, you won't find yourself on the vehicle. We don't drive you a few hundred yards to the harbor. You embark on a walk. What you might not realize is the walk you take is a walk that every prisoner took the day when they were released. You're going to get to Cape Town at about 1 o'clock this afternoon, and I promise you, when you get off the boat, you're going to think, what's for lunch? Point in case. What's your next stop after this? Lunch reservations. You're really thinking of it, if you get my meaning. Mr. Ahmed Kathrada was in prison, was sentenced to 26 years. He spent 26 years in jail. He said in many occasions he thought life was going to die in jail. And then 13th October 1989, they came to him and said, we just received a fax, you're going home tomorrow morning. For 26 years, this was the moment he dreamt to talk about. That fax finally came. His first question was, what the hell is the fax? In other words, how many walked that road, got onto a boat, but journeyed into the future? Something to think about once again.
24 hours. Got 24 hours to carry me. 24 hours too long. Yeah, it was.
Timber Ray coming to do it. Don't put your hands. He said.
Yeah. Otherwise, I'm very pleased to have you. My name is Sipho.
Sipho.
Yes.
H is silent.
Sipho.
Sipho.
Yes. As a word, it simply means gift. My one and only sister, together with my mom, were the ones who gave me the strongest support after being arrested. I was here for 5 years, arrested as a member of African National Congress. They will come and visit me 3 times a year. Coming from Durban, they will take a 4,000-kilometer round trip by train. Wow. Just to spend, each one of them spending 30 minutes with me at the harbor.
Oh, wow.
They will do that 3 times. It was always feeling very, very special. You knew we are really loved without conditions by these guys. And then before I came here, I attended the court case for a few months. My mom was a working mom. My sister was already training to be a teacher. But they will come to the court at least twice a week, just to give me that much needed support. And then before I was taken to court, having been arrested by security police under Internal Security Act, where you were not even allowed to see a lawyer. They were allowed to keep you in solitary confinement for a minimum of 6 months. So I ended up spending 6 months and 2 weeks in solitary confinement. They will not even know your whereabouts. Where are you being kept was also a secret. But my sister and my mom, after many weeks of being arrested, they kept on going to the headquarters of the security police in my hometown, Durban, demanding that they want to see me, even though they knew, according to Internal Security Act, is not allowed. But they went there to put a lot of pressure on a number of days. Eventually, the security police compromised. They drove them to where I was being kept, blindfolded, and then so that they cannot see the route. And then once they were there, they were told, don't even try and shout at him. Don't even try to make him aware that you are here. They were positioned a few meters from my cell in the corridor. So one morning, the security police opened the 2 gates leading to the cell door. At the door, instead of talking, they stepped back towards the corridor, which really surprised me. Why they are standing at the corridor and then asking me small questions. How are you? How did you sleep? How was your breakfast? And so on. They simply wanted
Them to hear it.
to keep me talking so that my sister and my mom, they can hear my voice. They were satisfied that at least I'm still alive. At least I'm still alive. So they never bothered them after that. Steve, you can come.
These are the beds they slept in. This is the bathroom. This is the, I don't know if they're toilet, but this is the bathroom and the shower. Forces.
In the single cells, prisoners were using buckets as toilets. When you are locked in your single cells from 4:30 in the afternoon to 6 o'clock the next morning, you use your bucket as your toilet. We go forward, there is a room.
This is Mandela's cell.
I mean, you're in the cap. You can get a cap with his cell number on it.
Oh, wow.
It says South Africa.
Okay, I'll look for that.
The guards to make a recommendation that he be taken to a mainland hospital. This way.
On the meals that they had, I saw on the board where they had two different type of meals. Did they
Well, when it comes to the meals, when I was around, in the morning, you'll get corn porridge with tea or coffee. 11:30, you will get 4 slices of bread. It was called puzamanda. It will come in the form of yellow powder. Take a scoop, you mix it with water and drink. Little nutrition there. And then the last meal of the day, sometimes it's the same corn porridge as a staple diet. Sometimes it's rice mixed with crushed corn. served with fish powder. And then your second best for Asians and people of mixed racial background. And then your worst diet, third category for black guys like myself. Yes. I came here in 1984 December doing a 5-year sentence. I left 1989-97. Now, when as part of punishment, they will starve you by giving you very little as food. It's part of punishment. And then you'll be locked in your cell 23 hours every day. 30 minutes out of your cells in the morning to wash yourself and wash the bucket that you use as your toilet. After 30 minutes locked in your cell. Late afternoon, same routine, they take you out for about 30 minutes. Otherwise, 23 hours in your cell. And then for other things that were seen as more serious, like attempting to escape or physically fighting the guards, or found in possession of political literature. There used to be lots of political literature in this prison. The leaders staying in these single cells were always writing lots of political literature, so that in the big cells, after lockup, we do our political education. That was our program all the time. But sometimes you are found in possession of political literature, maybe for the 3rd time, 4th time. They say, now we take the guy to the prison court. The prison court will give you an additional sentence for those things. It might be 6 months more, 2 years more, 1 year more, that kind of thing.
So do you have any flashbacks that when you come
You do.
Wow. I can imagine your dreams a lot.
You do. I even started counseling like 2017. Yeah, just a bit of counseling.
Now, did you get any therapy or anything where when you were released from here, was there any?
No, every time we're still under apartheid, you are just released, you continue with the fight against apartheid. Yeah, it was like that.
So do you still hold, you have any resentments? Have you made peace with this? Have you forgiven?
I think I have made peace with the past in some way. But of course, the security police, they tortured me.
Yeah.
I don't think I will ever forgive them. Worse, they even killed a comrade right here next to us. In fact, we are still pursuing that case to be taken to the courts. We are still pursuing it. It can go to the courts in the near future. Yeah.
Leave the meeting. Time to go. Thank you.